Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Bailey Approach autograph. So it's a 765 model, and obviously, like most motorhomes, based on the Peugeot Boxer chassis. On the left hand side here, we've got your fluids and bits and pieces. So you've got your washer fluid that's accessible just here, power steering fluid, engine coolant, and brake fluid. So to get to these two just here, you need to take this little cap off up here. So you just need to undo these little clips, and then this should just pull straight out and give you access to that. The engine oil gets topped up through here. You can see the nice good colour of the engine oil there. Nothing nasty about that. Engine oil dipstick. It's this yellow top one down here at the front. The only other thing really is that your engine battery itself on these particular chassis sits under the floor in the cab. It's been the same since the 2007 model. So if you want to jump start it, you've got a little point down here which you can squeeze together and lift out, and that'll give you your positive terminal just there. And you can use this as an earth for earthing it, so when you're going to jump start it, you can earth from here. It does say there only for jump start. They used to be just down here somewhere on slightly older chassis, but it's up there. So positive down there, negative here, or in fact if you can't get a good earth from there, any kind of decent bit of metal really. Just trying to have a look. So there's a little engine hoist just there. That'd probably be a good earth if you can't get anything off that one. But also don't forget that you can quite easily get to the engine battery. If you don't have any luck with that whatsoever, you can get to the engine battery just in front of the passenger seat there under the floor. You've got two chassis plates here. The original one here that says Automobiles Peugeot, this is when the base vehicle was completely originally made in the Peugeot factory. So this would have been literally a cab and a chassis. So it's a chassis cab is what it's called, before they built the actual motorhome on top of it. So that's the original chassis plate. So you just have to ignore this one and then look at this one instead. So this is your Alco. So this is the sort of like uprated chassis version. So the actual weight of this vehicle is 3,850. But yeah, this one here in the middle is one you go off, and you've got there, what does that say, 632 as your paint code. That's what that is. But yeah, so all your little details and bits and pieces are just in there. Obviously you've got the air conditioning on this model, so it's what these pipes here are for usually. But yeah, there you go, so that's under the bonnet. On the near side you've got your diesel filling cap, and so you need your ignition key to go in there to open that. And the actual bonnet release itself is just here inside the passenger door. Next thing along is your gas locker. So you've got really good sized gas locker there. You've got space in here for two of these 6 kilo propane bottles, or if you did want to use the slightly bigger ones, the 13 kilos, they should also fit in there as well. You've got a spanner in here which is the perfect size for the one nut that you have to undo to replace the bottle. But basically, anti-clockwise around to the left turns the bottle on, and clockwise around to the right turns the bottle off. That's basically all you need to know. You need to turn the bottle off before you start driving. But yeah, other than that, just undoing that nut there, putting it onto your new bottle and just giving it a little nip up is the way to do it. You haven't got to worry about any of that stuff over there. That's purely just for our testing purposes. The only thing I will say, you've got a crash sensor on there, so that's what this little green button, I'll just zoom in a little bit. So that's what this little green button here is. So if basically when you turn the gas on, if you find that when you go inside you can't get anything to work on gas, so no gas is coming through, just push and hold this little green button for 2 or 3 seconds and let go, and then that should release any gas in there. So all it is literally, like I said, is a crash sensor. So if you were to crash the vehicle, that should isolate the gas from coming from here to here, so it won't allow it down this pipe into the vehicle. So if you don't get any gas coming through, just have a little go, press that button in, and then see how you go from there. But you shouldn't really get that problem unless you are in an accident. So awning light is just above the door there. These two vents just here are for your fridge. So I've got the fridge lit up on gas at the moment, and I can feel hot air coming out through this part just here. That's because this little bit here is the exhaust for the fridge. So the burner's just down here in the bottom of this corner, on this lower one, and then it goes up the flue, out through this little vent just here. So that's basically it really. That's all I wanted to show you, just so you can see where that is. So the only thing to mention really is ideally, if you're going to have the fridge running constantly on gas like that, you should probably have that window shut. And there may or may not be a sticker in there saying that on it, I don't know, but it's more so for when it's directly underneath. But if you do have this window wide open and the fridge lit up on gas, you know, you will get some fumes coming into the vehicle. So always best to try and keep these windows shut if you've got the fridge lit up on gas. If you do have a hookup plugged in, like I do at the moment, you can just use it on mains and then you don't have to worry about that. But it's just the gas flame stuff. Just something to point out. Your freshwater drain is under the floor, which I'll show you when we get into the vehicle. Bike rack fitted as per request. There are various extra bits and pieces in the vehicle for the bike rack, like the top arms and things like that. They'll all be in there, but that is all there on the original Bailey fitted brackets. You've got a steady winder, which is that white one just there on the left, awning winder, and this is actually a center pole for the awning. So if you have the awning all the way out, you can actually fit this little center pole. So this part here hooks on. When you open it up, you'll see exactly in the middle there's a hook for this. If you hook it on and then hook this side on the other side on the actual lead bar of the awning, you can then open it and then tighten it down in like an open position, so it stops the awning from flexing whatsoever. So it's just a little sort of support bar, I think they're called. So it's always a nice extra to have. Right. Like I said, I have got a hookup plugged into the vehicle at the moment. This little vent here is for your Aldi heating and hot water system. Bring it around here. So that's what that is there at the back. Your wastewater drain is this one just here. So you literally just turn that 90 degrees and all your wastewater should come out from there. So if you're at your campsite, you should be over your wastewater drain off point, or have a roll away wastewater, tank or something underneath that. But yeah, so that's that. Last locker really is your toilet system. So the one at the top here is your flush fluid. So you literally just open this one up and then pour in your pre-mixed pink fluid into there, and you will need a key to shut that. So I'm going to show you that. See how I did that? So now I can't open that. Twist it, open it. That's what that does. Like that. So that's your flush fluid, and then you've got your actual toilet cassette itself. And these are so simple to use. All you have to do to get it to come out is lift up on this little orange tab, pull it out, and then basically you've got a flap just here, which is what opens and closes when you put it in. When you come to empty it out, you open this outwards, take this cap off just here, and then drain it out from there. When you are draining it out, you should be holding down the little yellow tab just there, and then, or orange tab should I say, and then put a cap full of your blue fluid back inside the cassette, swoosh it around a little bit, and then put it back in. That's it. That's how you use it. Closing this locker, same idea. Just close it all the way and then just put the key in and turn it, take it out. Now you can't open it. To fill up the fresh water, there's two ways. You can use this little bit here, so you plug the point in and then drop it into your tank of fresh water that you've got from the local tap or whatever. If you don't have access to that and you do have a hose that you can plug into it, you can also get the adapter so that you plug the bit in, plug the hose into that and then turn it on, so it will fill the tank up that way. I will show you how to get the power to that on the inside. It's really simple. But if you don't have access to doing any of that and you've lost the point or anything like that, then you can also, where I'm going to show you where the freshwater drain is, you can get to the top of the tank and fill it up from inside, if that's, you know, the last resort sort of thing. Hookup point goes in there. Like I said, I've got that plugged in at the moment, just so that I can show you a few bits working on the inside. So yeah, that's that. So that's the outside done. I'll just jump in and show you what we've got going on inside. So we've got 9,200 miles on the clock, which is, you know, obviously very low. I'll put the ignition on there. Comes up with a few different things. So there's quite a new, you know, very modern little cab. So there's various little bits and pieces on there that will go through and check. 6-speed manual gearbox. Reverse in these chassis are lift up and over to the top left like that. You've got cruise control under here. All of your steering wheel controls, that's all of them. You don't get any more than that. You can lock and unlock the cab from here. Electric windows, electric adjusting mirrors from there. Your OBD reader and various fuses and relays are just in here behind these two screws. Air conditioning works on that switch just there, and that will only come on when you've got, you know, your fan switch on one or above. Other than that, there's just, you know, loads of extras in here. The reversing camera, again, as requested. If I just pop the ignition on, I'll just show you that. So, with the ignition on, you can turn it on and have it on at all times if you want to. So that's it looking down. And then straight back. So, because you can't really see anything out the back of these, having the access to using it straight back as well means that you can leave that on all the time that you're driving and then just see what's going on behind you, just like a normal centre mirror, without having to actually physically see out the rear window, which is obviously quite small. So that's why we do it like that, and it should turn off when you turn the ignition off. Maybe I'll do it after a few minutes. But there you go. So if it doesn't turn off, just make sure that you switch it off, because, you know, that eventually that will start to drain out your engine battery if you leave it on. So okay, so I've got the bed down at the moment, just so I can show you that working, because it does actually work really well. In the past, sometimes when these haven't been looked after very well, they can, you know, they can get a little bit sort of sluggish to go up and down and things like that, but this one's working really well. So if I just show you that, I've put the key in there and turned it. So if I go up now obviously up takes quite a lot longer than going down because of gravity, but just show you that all working all the way up. And then it meets up with all that and makes it nice and flush. So I think it looks really nice up there. Got some lights on the bottom of the bed there, so you can turn them on and off with that switch just there. I'm going to leave them on for the minute. Before we get into anything else, I will just show you, like I said, outside, your freshwater tank is that one just there under this cover that I've taken off. So a couple of bits I want to show you really. So this is the main cap for the freshwater tank, and I was obviously taking that off for the minute. When you look inside that hole, you can probably see, I'm trying to drop my phone in there, there's a little bung in there. So this part. So this is the way that you drain out your freshwater tank. If you don't want to do that, there are other ways of doing it. You know, like you could just draw all the water through your your taps and then drain it through your waste tank if you want to. But it is important to do that every once in a while, to drain it out from that bung, because the difficulty with vans that don't have a bung in the tank is that you can never ever get all the little bits of grit and sand out of those ones because there's no bung. You know, if they've just got a drain that comes off to the side, that's great, but it doesn't really get the very bottom of the tank sediment off. Whereas when you got a one with a bung there, when you lift that bung out, everything leaves that tank. So it is useful, but it also is sometimes a bit of a pain to have to get your hand in there and drain it out. But that's where it is. That's your waste drain, your fresh drain, sorry. This little pipe on the top of here is an overflow. So if I just pop this back on without making a meal of it. A bit easier with two hands, really. Basically, when you got this back on, oh, it's right there, nearly there, like that. Once this is back on, this little piece with the pipe coming off of it, when you fill the tank up, if you fill it up too much, instead of it just pouring out over the top, you've got this pipe up here so that it will just go down here and then out underneath the vehicle. So that's good for a couple of reasons as well, because you can fill it up as much as you like, and then when you start getting to the top, you'll know about it because you'll hear it draining out underneath, because this little pipe here will be using as an overflow. Other than that, you've got your pump down here as well. So if you ever needed to replace this pump that's there, that is a whale pump, so that's a really high specification pump. But yeah, other than that, it's that's about it really. I was just trying to tighten that up a little bit. That's a bit better. Right, so we can pop that back down. In the one up here, you've got your leisure battery. So that's there. So that's a really, really good size leisure battery. And I'll just pop that little cap over that. So if you ever needed to get to that to replace it, then you can go to there. And also, if you ever wanted to, they've left you the previous owner, or maybe from factory even, these two wires just here. The one battery just there is absolutely plenty for this vehicle, because it's, what is that? 90 amp hour, good battery. It looks reasonably new as well, because it's a Power Max one. If you ever found that you were struggling for power and you wanted a little bit more, or even, you know, you shouldn't really struggle for power to be honest on this, but if you ever wanted to get another battery as well, all you'd actually have to do is basically marry them up. So put another battery in here, put these across both sides, and then that'll give you two batteries in parallel. So that's up to you. If you want to do that, they've left you space in here for that. We haven't removed it or anything. It's just that that's how the van came to us, to be honest. So the whale freshwater inlet points that I was saying about outside are all here. So this is the plug part I was talking about. So you plug it in, and you can either attach it to a hose or have it so that it's dropping into a tank, and you know, you can do it various different ways, however suits you. So okay, so I'll go through the control panel. It's probably the easiest place to start. So I've turned the main power on, so I've pressed the master switch and it comes up saying master on. I can then go through here. So I've got my shaky hand, I've just got to do it on my phone. So you can go through here and see all of your levels. So that was freshwater level, wastewater level, fill internal tank. So if you've got that bit plugged in out there, you come to here, fill internal tank, enter, turn pump on to use this function. So then you turn the pump switch on, and that'll be it. So then you know your water will start coming in from that point that you've plugged in outside. Next one, water source, external tank, external temperature. Don't need to worry about the user settings. Internal temperature, battery select. So you want to leave that there on leisure. So that means that basically all of your lights and things like that that are working right now are coming from the leisure battery here, rather than the engine battery in the front. So you always want it to be running through from the leisure battery, obviously, because if you started using things from your engine battery, eventually, you know, you wouldn't be able to start the thing up. So it's really important that you do that. Leave that where it is on leisure. Get back through to that quickly. Leisure, leave that where it is. Leisure battery amps, so there's not really much power being drawn. And leisure battery voltage, 13.5, that's because the charger is on, because the hookup is plugged in. And that's it. So Hookup's plugged in. You can see that because you've got the little hookup lead symbol up there. Pump on. So now I've not got any water in the tank whatsoever. So absolutely nothing is going to happen. All right, for the moment. If I go back through here now, internal tank. Should then, when you've got water in the tank, the pump will come on and allow you to bring the water through from the tap. So, you know, it's at the moment, because we've been draining all of them out, because it's so cold outside, you have to drain these whole motorhomes out of their water because, well, if you're not going to use it, that is. Because if the water freezes any pipe or the boiler or anything at all, if it freezes, it'll expand and then it will break all of your pipes and joints and things like that. So it's important that you drain them out when it's getting to, you know, through to winter. If you're not going to use the vehicle, drain these out. So because I've not actually got the pump, any water in the tank, I'll turn that pump off for the moment. Okay, so pump switch, like I said, that's on. The lights, that's self-explanatory. I've got that, you know, that's obviously on at the moment because the lights are on. But the only other one is awning, and that is your awning light. So if I press that, you can see now, the light just above the door there is on. So I can turn that off. It comes up saying awning off. If you don't want kids or whatever to be playing around with that bed, take the key out and that will no longer work. So, but for the moment I will just leave that in because, you know, you don't want to lose that. In fact, actually, I'll put it on the keys. Better idea. Okay, so the next thing is your Aldi heating system, heating and hot water, that is. So this can sometimes be a little bit awkward to explain. I'm going to try my best to explain it in a sort of easy way. So basically how Aldi works is like a household heating system, really. You don't get the sort of instant hot water that you do at home, but the heating itself works exactly the same. So what it does is it heats up water, pumps the water around, and then you get the heating coming through from the backs of these cupboards. You see there's gaps around there all the way around, gaps all over the place. So what happens is little radiators fill up with water just like at home. They get heated up, and then you get these little vents around the vehicle all over the place, which is where the radiators are. So instead of being a gas flame that literally heats up something and then blows hot air around, it's a gas flame, heats up water, pumps the water around, in turn heating up the radiators. So in a wardrobe somewhere, there should be, there you go, so that's your Aldi heating system coolant reservoir. So just like any household has got, you know, in the boiler, there'll be like, you know, well, the radiators really are the reservoirs because they've got the water in them. But because it's a motorhome style one, it's slightly different in the way that it works. But when you have it running, you'll notice that water level actually sort of bubbles around and moves around. It's completely normal, and that's because the pump that pumps the water around is just literally just by that. So when you're pumping the water around to the radiators, that will bubble a little bit. Like I said, completely normal, just in case you wondered. Okay, so the way that you actually use it, press menu, and then you've got temperature at the top, so 25, 22 and a half. I'm going to put that to 24 for the moment. It's a little bit warm in the garage. And then you've got your hot water level, so basically high or low, I think, on those ones. Yeah, high or low. If you want to use it on electric, you can go 1, 2, or 3. Now, I personally wouldn't advise you to use 3 because I think it's a little bit too much power. If you imagine, if you're on a campsite and you've plugged in on the mains, if you're plugged into a 10 amp pole, if you turn it on 3 kilowatts there, that will trip the pole, because 13 kilowatts is roughly works out to be about sort of like 11 or 12 amps. So if you're plugged into a 10 amp pole, you're drawing too much power in the vehicle, therefore you will trip the power outside at the post that you're plugged into. If you're plugged into like a 16 amp pole, you don't really need to worry so much, but I just really would advise you just don't bother putting it on 3 kilowatts because it's just too much. there's no need for it really, in my opinion. So leave it on 2 as a maximum, I would. If you didn't want to use it on the mains, you can turn it back to 0 and turn it off, and then turn the gas on if you like. And once you've done that, the gas in the Audi heating system will light up, and then you'll start to get hot water, and the van will heat up to 24 degrees. All right, so the top 2 there, heating, hot water. Hot water's either 1 or 2 basically, and the heating is just literally set your temperature, just like a thermostat. And like I said, if you want to use the gas, you literally turn the gas on or off. And if you want to use the mains, just literally choose 1, 2 or 3 kilowatts. But like I said, I wouldn't bother with 3 kilowatts because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be plugged in to a 16 amp pole, because that's kind of, I think it's a little bit much really. I don't think they tend to do that. So if you were plugged into one of the normal 10 or 13 amp poles, by the time you, so for example, if you put it on 3 kilowatts there, and you're plugged into a 13 amp pole, you'd be drawing 11 amps from the Audi heating system. Then if you went to turn this hot plate on here, you'd then be drawing too much power, because that will draw about 5 amps. So you're already, just by using the heating and the hot plate, you'll be overriding it with power. Whereas if you try to use it on 1 or 2, so 1 is about 4 amps and 2 is about 8 amps. So it's much less. 1 or 2, to be honest with you, even 1 is fine, because it does start to work quite quickly. So but yeah, that's just a tip basically. So for the minute, I'm going to turn that all off because I don't really want it on. Off, and just back down to there. Then you can press menu again, press that, which turns it off. So that's your Audi heating system. The Audi heating systems are really useful because, especially in a slightly bigger van like this, I mean, I know this isn't exactly a real beast of a vehicle, but on the slightly bigger vehicles like this, it does make a huge difference. When you heat the van up with this and heat the radiators up and stuff like that, water stays a lot hotter. It stays hotter for a lot longer than the gas, like, what am I trying to say? The blown air heating, basically, on a lot of the other vehicles. The blown air heaters are great because they heat up really quickly, but the Audi heating systems stay hotter for longer once you've turned them off. So if you turn the Audi heating system off before you go to bed, it will stay, it will stay warm in here pretty much all night. Whereas if you turn the heating off in a true blown air heater, turn it off before you go to sleep, it'll be cold in here again within half an hour. Because when as soon as you turn it off, it stops. Whereas with this, when you turn it off, the radiators still stay hot because there's still hot water in them. So that's what the big plus is really with the Audi heating systems. But they've all got their pros and cons. But we've gone through and made sure that everything works perfectly well on that entire system, obviously, and it does. So next thing probably is the fridge. It's a 3-way fridge, just like nearly every motorhome fridge. Dometic and Thetford are the 2 big players in the fridge range, but really Dometic are the bigger ones, because Dometic do Electrolux and a few other ones as well. So the way this one works is it's an electric ignition for the gas, that is, obviously. So if I turn this off for the moment, well, actually, I'll tell you what, I've got it lit up at the moment on gas, like I showed you outside. If I turn it off from the gas by literally turning this from anywhere from the gas symbol, we'll turn the gas off. If you watch what happens over here, so this little thing over here, you see where it's slightly in the green. Essentially, when I turn this dial off over here from gas, that'll go straight down. So I'm going to do it now. So that is the gas off. If you want to use it on mains, you've got a mains cable plugged in, one to the right like that, and that works it on mains, and that basically just heats up an element, which then in turn cools the coolant down and makes the reaction, etc. So that's just basically using it like a household fridge. The only other way to use the fridge is slightly different. So it's this one here. So at the moment, that is not doing anything at all because I've not got the engine running. So the idea is you get the fridge cold first before you leave, either via the gas or the mains. And then once you've done that, start the engine up and get going, but you need to turn it over to 12 volt just here. So the 12 volt isn't powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself, because the 12 volt element in the back of the fridge is way smaller than the mains one. So what you need to do, like I said, pre-cool the fridge. And the reason I say the night before you go away usually is that these fridges take about 3 or 4 hours to actually get cold, you know, properly cold anyway, either via the gas or the mains. So if you light it up or turn it on the mains the night before you go, switch it over to the 12 volt before you leave, and then switch it back to one of the other two once you've parked up. The reason that you have to do that is because you can't obviously drive away with a hookup plugged into the vehicle, and you can't drive away with your gas switched on, or you definitely shouldn't. And certainly you can't leave the gas flame on the back of the fridge when you're driving either. So you do have to switch over to the 12 volt when you're driving. But other than that, it's all pretty straightforward. The way to actually light it up on gas is you turn it down to the gas symbol, and then press your igniter, which I'm not sure you can hear on the video or not, but I can hear it here. So when you're doing it, you better hear that. All you have to do, push this button in whilst you press the igniter button down, and you'll see that little orange symbol will go up. Sometimes it do take a little while to get going. You can let go of that, and then just basically keep your eye on that little orange needle. That will slowly go up into the green. If it's lit, it will just go up slowly. Yeah, it is definitely on. But that's that. So after a few minutes or so, that'll be up in the green there. A way to double check that that's definitely lit, if it's not got a peephole in it, which it doesn't, is to go out to the outside of the vehicle, like I said, and just put your hand over that vent. So if I just went out there now, because that green, you know, they're not exactly the most efficient ways of checking if they're lit or not, the green dial. Just come out here. Yep, definitely lit, because I can feel the heat coming out of it. 100%. So that's how you use that. I'm going to turn it off the gas for the moment because I don't actually need it to be cold myself. Right, so the cooker, because it's a Bailey, as a British built vehicle, near enough everything in this whole van works on mains and gas. So if you were on a campsite and didn't want to use any gas at all, hooked up, you can still use the fridge, you can still use the cooker on this hot plate here, you can still use your Audi heating and hot water system because that's all on mains or gas. You can use your microwave, you know, just everything basically. So you can still heat your van, get hot water, cool your fridge, heat anything up on the cooker, you know, microwave, the lot. So on a lot of the German vehicles, because their gas is a lot cheaper and a lot more accessible, they tend to just have everything on gas because they just tend to use everything on gas. Whereas for us, gas can sometimes be a little bit expensive to buy. And so, you know, British built vehicles tend to have all the electrical ways of using things as well. So that's why that is. Ignition on here is there. So that'll do all three burners, the grill and the oven underneath. So the only thing I need to show you really is that when you turn this on, you get a little red light coming on there. And then essentially that means that this hot plate in the corner will be heating up. Like I said, that is mains operated, so it's really important to keep your eye on that. When you turn this when you plug the mains cable in, if you notice that this light is on, you have to turn it off quickly, because if you have this down, for example, and I have actually seen it happen, if I turn this on now and left it on for a little while, that hot ring will heat up. It'll be heating the bottom of this glass up, but the top of it will still be cold, and then obviously it just shatters. So really important, one of the biggest things that I tend to say about in these videos is when you turn these on, you have to make sure that you have this glass up. And also, not only that, when you've just so if I light any of these up, so I've lit that one up in the corner, I could leave that on and cook with it for as long as I like. If I turn this off, so imagine if I've had that on for 10 minutes, if I turn that off and shut this lid straight down, after, you know, I don't even like doing it just after that long, but basically if it's really hot underneath and cold on top, the glass will 100% shatter. All right, so you need to make sure not only don't close it down on the gas flame itself, literally, but don't close it down just after it's been turned off, because that will shatter it. It's not the end of, if that does happen, it's not the absolute end of the world, because we can get these glass lids, but it's just not very pretty when they when they shatter. It's not nice, so just bear that in mind. Wardrobe, like I said, you've got a few bits in here. Your tilt and turn aerial is there, and your TV aerial booster is that one, so that doesn't actually need to be on all the time. Yeah. So basically, wherever your TV aerial booster is wired up to, which I would imagine is probably this over here, all you need to do is literally put that tilt and turn aerial up and just turn it to wherever you think it needs to be. Once you've done that, and you've got signal, turn your booster on, plug your TV into there, and then whether it's a 12-volt TV or a mains operated TV, you've got access to both of those options. So that's what that is in there. Your standalone table is here on the left-hand side of the wardrobe, and your ladder for getting up into the bed hooks onto these here, and then it allows you to get up, obviously, when the bed's down. So, having them put back up there, make sure that you put that back over, otherwise that will make a hell of a noise when you're driving, and it's very annoying. These pipes here are all for your Audi heating system, so that's all just hot water pipes, so just take care around those. This cupboard just here, let's have a look what's in there. So this looks like access to the top of your waste tank. Let's have a look in there. Yeah, so it's really clean in there, but that is your access to your waste tank. So if you wanted to get into the waste tank for whatever reason, that's where you want to go. These little bits just sit in like that. So loads of storage underneath the seats around here at the back. This side will have the Audi heating system in it in the corner. So if I just take this cushion out for a minute, because I'd just like to show you, there should be, tell you what, that's nice and easy. Normally it's a real pain to get down into these little gaps. So the Audi heater itself, I know it's a little bit dark, let me just see if I put, that's better. So the Audi heating system is all of this box just here. So literally all there is, I can just explain it really quickly. So this whole box is just got a flame in it on one side, and then hot water running through it on the other. So there'll be a tank inside of here for heating the water up that comes around to your taps, but there's also like a kind of combi boiler type thing inside, so that when the water comes through for the radiators, it runs through, heats up, and then pumps around. So there's a little pump on the side down there which has got a little pressure switch on it. It goes 1 to 5, and then, you know, but you don't have to worry about any of that. It's all just literally done, works perfectly anyway. Down here is the only thing I really want to show you. So you can see that yellow lever down there, it's in the upright position at the moment. So if I turned the pump on and started pumping water around to the boiler in order to fill it up, which you need to do before trying to use it whatsoever, at the moment nothing is going to go into that boiler, because that tap there is in the upright position and allowing all the water that goes past it to go down onto the ground outside. So basically that is your boiler drain off. In that position there, like I said, that is draining out onto the floor. So because, like I said, we've been going around and draining out all the vehicles with all their water, that's why that's like that. So for the minute, I'm going to close that back over again, so that the next time you fill the van up with water and try pulling it all through the taps and stuff, it will fill the boiler up. Okay, so essentially when you're using the vehicle, you need to leave that in the position it's in now. If you lift it upright, all the water will drain out from underneath, or from the boiler, sorry, underneath, and you know, you won't be able to use it at all. The heating system is completely separate to that. Okay, so that's for your hot water only. So if it was winter and you wanted to drain the boiler out because you're a bit worried about it freezing, you can drain that out by lifting it upright, but you can still use your hot water, your heating system, sorry. Because the heating system's got its reservoir in the cupboard there, and it's got coolant in it, it means that it won't freeze and you can use it all year round. But if you're going to use the vehicle, if you weren't going to use the vehicle, sorry, and you were worried about the boiler's water freezing and you wanted to drain it out, like I said, lift up the little yellow tab there upright where it was when I first started the video. So that's another reason why the Audi heating systems are so good, because the actual sorry, getting my words mixed up, because the heating system's water is completely separate to the hot water that comes through your tap, and the fact that that heating water has got coolant in it, it means that you literally never have to do anything with it, apart from every sort of 5 years or so. I think you're supposed to replace it, you know, drain it out and replace it. But, you know, sort of like mobile mechanics can do that. There's plenty of people that we can recommend to do that. But yeah, so that's really good thing about the Audi heating systems. You can literally use them all year round. If you want to drain the water out from the boiler, then you can do, but then all of your water for the heating system will still be in the radiators and still working. So the bathroom is the last thing really. So you've got switches here for the lights. When you turn them on, you get a light up in there and a light up there, which are both LEDs, and they're both really bright. So it doesn't take up much space, but it's also really bright. Another radiator here, Audi heating system. So that's what that is. If you're, you know, working out what that is, the radiator for the bathroom. Shower door comes open like that, and then you can pull it across and make it up. But it's really helpful to keep that across when you're driving, because like I said, the more things you can stop making noise, the better, because they make a racket sometimes. You need the taps down now. That was just down there on the floor, so you can put that down, you know, if you want to. It's just for grip really. I don't need to show you how these bits work, like the sink and stuff, because that is just, you know, just like any household sink and tap. Toilet cassette. The only thing you need to know really is that you push this button down to flush it, and to drain it out into the cassette, you open it up to the right. That drains whatever's in the toilet there into the cassette that I showed you outside, and then you need to close it back over again, like that. And that is honestly it. So I'll put that back together in just a second. All that we actually need to do now is give your van a good clean on the inside and the outside, and we're completely ready for collection. I hope I've sort of covered everything you were expecting to be covered in the video, but if there's anything else you think I've missed out or anything you want going through again, just let us know. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.